video.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel where I will be doing another episode recap for today's Days of Our Lives. Today is July 31st, the last day of July, folks. So let's get into this, right? So we see Gabby and Ava, they're working together at Gabby Chic for the relaunch of Gabby Chic, actually, right? So they're working on the ad campaign, and at some point Ava asks Gabby, how is Rafe doing? And she's like, he's still the same. She's just really she's hoping that Jada can catch the person who did it, right? So Ava expresses her empathy and her well wishes and hope that Rafe will make a speedy recovery and all of that, right? So at some point Gabby gets a phone call from Stefan, and Stefan asks her if she can come at the bistro because it's an emergency and it cannot be spoken over the phone. So she's like, all right, I'm in the middle of a campaign, but okay, she'll head over, right? So she tells Ava that she has to go see Stefan, right? So Ava is like, all right, do what you gotta do, right? So we continue back at the police station with Jada and Bobby, right? So Jada gets to the point and says, Stephanie came to see you at the time of Rafe stabbing, and your exit from Bayview there at the same time. And however, Stephanie came over to see you and you were in the shower. What were you showering for? Like, were you trying to get rid of evidence? And I'm like, Jada, the man is coming from a mental institution. Maybe you just want to get rid of the germs and all of that. Like, come on. This was not really a reasonable question. But anyways, she begins to continues to question him and all of that. And then he's like, I did not stab Commissioner Rafe Hernandez. I really did not. So she's like, you know what? If you cannot talk, I'm going to send in some examiners and they will tell me if you're really Bobby or Everett. So at some point he caves in and said, you know what? I'm actually Bobby, but I did not, and repeat, I did not stab the commissioner. So she's like, then who did? Because he's like, I do know who it is. So she's like, who is it? So again, he begins to fake him having a headache, and he's saying he's not feeling well, and she's like, this is not second grade where you can call your mom and all that, like, you're stop with the BS, right? So he's like, no, I'm really not feeling well, and he rushed out of there, right? So then we go over to see Connie, and she's still in Bobby's room, and she's planting evidence on him for Rafe stabbing and possibly Lee's murder as well, right? She has on her black gloves as traditional, and she's planting evidence everywhere on the laptop and in the clothing and everything, and she's getting to that point, right? But then there's a knock at the door, and it was Leo, right? And Leo wants to speak to Everett, see what's happening with him, right? Because remember, Stephanie told him, she didn't tell him directly, but he had an idea that Everett is really not Everett and it's really Bobby. So he just wants to really find out for himself, right? Even though she told him not to and to drop it, but you know how Leo is, right? So he's knocking at the door, and she's like, why is he here and everything? And she hopes he goes away, and he was about to go away, but then she stumbled upon a garbage bin, and then he's like, oh, so he's really there. So anyways, he still calls for him, and he, there was no answer, so he assumes that Everett or Bobby doesn't really want to talk to him, right? So then, Connie gets away with what she was doing, and she sneakily leaves out of the room and drops the room key and goes about her business, right? So we see Stephanie outside the pub, and she's trying to get to Jada, but she's not getting through to her. But she leaves her voicemail saying that she just run into Leo, and Leo also has an idea that Bobby is truly, not gone, and, he's really still present. So she tried to warn him off, and, she said he needs to drop it. However, she doesn't think that, he listened to her. Hopefully he did, but, come on, Stephanie, that this is Leo, and he's nosy. He's gonna do what he's gonna do, right? But anyway, she leaves a voicemail for Jada, and that was it with her, right? So we see Chad at the office, right? The spectator office, and Jack comes in, right? So Chad is like, I heard that Xander signed over his share of the paper to you. This is good news, right? So he's like, yeah, I'm really happy about this. But then they also started talking about Abigail, right? And the video that they found of the woman that, is presumably Abigail, right? So he said that he has a photojournalist working on it and using some special technology to decipher if, that lady is actually Abigail's. But he's like, if it doesn't work out, this is really another dead end, and I have to go back to Boston and inform Jennifer, because she's already mad that we dug up her grave, and just to hear that her body's not there, like, it's another thing that, she's gonna be devastated about. So anyways, he goes out to see what can happen with that video, right? So before Jack run off, he actually asked Jack if he wanted him to sign over his share of the paper as well, because, it's technically Gwen's, but he wanted to ask him as well. So he's like, no, it is technically Abigail's own, and, Abigail would have wanted it to go to the children, right? So no worries about that, right? So Stephanie comes over to the police station where Jada is, right? Because Bobby already ran off, right? So, Jada fills in Stephanie and what happened, and that Bobby actually confessed that he's not Everett, he has been Bobby the whole time. And she was like, no wonder I was dumped so cold and insensitive, like no wonder he's not really Everett. So anyways, she begins to tell Stephanie that Bobby knows who actually killed Lee and who stopped Rafe. So she's like, did he give any names? And she's like, no, because as we were about to get into that, he begins to, play off that he's not well and doing this whole game again. So she's like, do you really believe it? And she's like, no, she don't believe it. So she's like, so why you letting him run off? So she's like, I couldn't hold him legally. I can't. So, there's not much I can do with that. My hands are tied. So Stephanie's like, well, I'm not a police officer, so I don't have to follow protocol. So that's when Stephanie run off, and Jada tried to stop her, but then she ran off, and, Jada just followed behind her, right? So we see Kristen and Ava, right? And Ava is continuously working on the marketing campaign for Gabby Chic, right? So Kristen asks where Gabby was, and Ava's like, she ran off to meet up with Stefan. So she's like, on the second day, she can't do this. So anyways, Ava said, I let her run off because, she just don't want to be beside Gabby. It's awkward because she slept with the lady's husband, so it's kind of awkward, and the less interaction she has with Gabby, the better. So she keeps on blurting this thing out in public. Like, Ava, if you really don't want nobody to know, you need to stop blurting this out in public. It's very annoying. Like, you tend to do that a lot, I realize. So Kristen is like, if you keep on blabbing, somebody's bound to know. Like, stop behaving so anxious about this all the time, like you're being too paranoid, right? Because she thinks that the meetup that's going on between Gabby and Stefan, Stefan is about to like grow conscious and tell Gabby, so she's just anxious about it, and like Kristen reassures her that she has nothing to worry about, right? So then we go on to the next scene. Connie comes in with 2 cups of latte, probably spiked because this lady can't be trusted. So anyway, she comes in and asks for Gabby, and they tell her that Gabby is, out of office. So she's like, oh, and I came with her, favorite latte and all of that, how she liked it. So Kristen takes it away from her, and she's like, she takes a sip and she spits it out. She's like, what did you put in there? So we have a flashback where Connie actually spiked it with something. We're not sure what it really is, some kind of pill or whatever. So she's like, I didn't put nothing in there. It's, the regular cup of Joe and all that. So then she asks Connie to get some sweetener from one of the rooms. So she's like, my name is Connie, and last time I checked, I work for Gabby. So she's like, but Gabby works for me, and I'm the CEO. So chop. So, Connie ran out there for the sweetener, and she, come back in, and, she's like, so where am I going to sit? So they're like, I don't know, take that up with Gabby. So they're about to go to a meeting and all that, right? So when she did come out at first, Ava's like, I wonder if that lady heard anything I said. And Kristen's like, probably if it was 60 seconds earlier, she would have, right? But don't underestimate this girl. She probably overheard it, but let's see. So we see Gabby go over to Stefan's restaurant, right? So Stefan, she's like, what's the big emergency? Like, I'm in the middle of a campaign. I have a business call that I have to take in 2 hours. And he's like, it's the next day. Like, I know your calendar and everything. So it's like, he starts to do romantic gestures, give her a bouquet of flowers. And, he's like, happy anniversary. And she's like, oh my gosh, I really forgot. Like, with everything with Rafe and everything going out with the business, I really forgot. So he's like, how did you forget that? Right? It's we've been married twice. It's been on the same day. And she's like, how could I really forget? Like, we shared a double wedding with Gwen and Dimitri. So I don't know how I forgot, but I'm really sorry about it. So anyways, he began to shower her with love, and he said a really nice poem and all that, and they danced and all, romantic stuff. So they cheers to more years and all that. But let's see, with this secret looming over Stefan's head, I don't know how that's gonna go, but let's see. So turns out that Bobby was really not faking his illness. So he actually was leaping to his door, and he comes in and he's in a lot of pain, and he's uncomfortable and all that. He's on the bed and he's like, what's happening? And there was some pills on the table, right? So he's like, what are these? Because probably what possibly happened, because we seen the flashback earlier with Connie, she probably spiked the latte when she was over to Bobby's room with the box of donuts. She probably spiked it, because that's what I'm assuming. She spiked the latte and he took a sip, and that's why he's feeling so ill right now, right? So then we see Jada and Stephanie come over to the room, right? And Jada already has a key, like, and then she's saying that, the manager doesn't know I need to not have a warrant. So anyway, she goes in, and luckily they go in, right? And they see Bobby on the bed, and they rush over, and Jada checks his pulse. It's a weak pulse, he's not feeling so well. She's like, Bobby, what did you do? And Bobby's like, I didn't do anything. Then she see the pills on the counter, and she takes it up and she's like, did you take these? And he's like slurring and said, no, I did not. So I don't know. Let's see what happens. So we see Julie. She's in the office alone with a latte, and she's like, well, I've taken care of the Bobby problem, so now I can focus on Gabby and Stefan for what they did to Lee, right? So anyways, remember when she first came into the office and she saw Kristen and Ava? So turns out she overheard Ava and Kristen talking about how Ava slept with Gabby's husband. So now she has this bomb drop to drop at any time to ruin Gabby and Stefan. So this lady is not only a psychopath, she's not only a murderess, but I don't know, she's just a master of evil at this point. So we see Leah comes over to the office with Chad, right? And he's asking Chad about what can he really write about. He has a lot of ideas what he can really put in the column, right? So Chad is busy on the laptop, he's distracted. So then the conversation turned to Everett, and he's like, you have an understanding of DID. What do you think? So he's like, really, I don't want to talk about it because it's still sensitive, and Abigail's body's gone. So he's really, he doesn't really want to talk about it, right? Then he's like, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a new owner. He's wondering if Gwen is coming back. So then he starts to talk about how things went down with Gwen and Dimitri, and he's just upset about how things went. He wish he didn't do that to his best friend, and he misses the both of them, right? He starts talking about how Dimitri broke his heart and all of that. So Chad gave him some sage advice about moving forward and just really not looking back, and he has a lot going for him, right? So we see Leo, he's at the square, and he decides to call Gwen, right? And Gwen doesn't really want to hear from him. And he's like, happy anniversary, Gwen. I just wanted to check in with you. I really wanted to talk. And she's like, nah, I really don't want to talk to you. And hanged up, right? So we see Jack come back to the office. And Chad is still there. So he tells Chad that we got the video. So it seems like the video has been decoded and everything. We will see what happens with it if that lady's actually Abigail. So let's stay tuned to it, right? So don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to my channel. Comment below your thoughts on today's episode. I will see you tomorrow for an all new recap. Bye.